Welcome to our deep dive all about positioning. We're going to be diving into a Knowledge Project podcast episode featuring an expert, and he's going to break down how companies make sure you see their product the right way. And we'll be talking about a bunch of real-world examples. So get ready to see the world through a whole new lens.
That's really interesting because, a product can be amazing, but if it's positioned the wrong way, it could just flop.
Yeah.
In a market that is just saturated with all these options.
Right.
Perception really is everything.
And, you, the listener, are dealing with this every single day.
Right.
Whether you're choosing your morning coffee or deciding on which software to use at your company, positioning is influencing you constantly.
That's true.
So today we're going to unpack exactly how that works.
The expert in this episode starts by comparing positioning to the foundation of a house.
Okay.
If you have a shaky foundation, the whole structure is at risk. So positioning is the bedrock of everything that you do in marketing and sales.
Got it.
It shapes how customers compare value and choose between products.
And he uses a really clever example to illustrate this point.
Okay.
Muffins.
Muffins.
Think about a double chocolate salted caramel muffin that you grab at breakfast.
Yeah.
Isn't that basically cake?
It is.
Dressed up for a different time of day.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, and by calling it a muffin, the company is totally shifting our perception of it. Instead of comparing it to a slice of cake, we're comparing it to, a breakfast item.
Yeah.
So it makes it totally acceptable to eat first thing in the morning.
Right. It's healthy.
Yeah.
So same ingredients, different name,
Totally.
completely different outcome.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder how many other products out there are playing this game with our perception.
Totally. Yeah, and what happens when a company doesn't position a product?
Right.
That's where it gets...
Yeah, is it like leaving it up to chance?
It's a common mistake.
Yeah.
It really is. They assume that it's obvious what the product is.
Okay.
What it does. They think it's self-evident.
Yeah.
But this can create a huge disconnect between how the company views the product and how the customer sees it.
Got it.
And this leads to confusion and missed sales opportunities.
He gives a really good example in the episode of a company that developed a product that started as a souped-up email tool.
Okay.
But it morphed into something much closer to a chat platform.
Yeah.
But internally, they were still stuck on that email label. While customers were scratching their heads like, this doesn't really seem like email to me.
Interesting.
Right. And so those consequences of misalignment can be significant.
Yeah.
Customers might compare you to the wrong competitors. They might not grasp the value of your product.
Oh, boy.
So what happens when a startup wants to enter a market that's dominated by a giant like Salesforce?
Oh, that's tough.
Right. Like, how do you even stand a chance?
That's where something called the land and expand strategy comes in.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to take on the entire jungle at once.
Right.
You find a small clearing and you just dominate that.
I like that analogy. Okay. So how does that work practically?
He gives an example of a company called Jan Systems.
Okay.
They focused on a specific feature that investment banks needed.
Got it.
It was a niche that Salesforce wasn't really paying attention to.
Okay.
So they were able to become the go-to CRM for that specific market.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they avoided direct competition by targeting this smaller, underserved market.
That's clever.
Exactly. And once they built up that expertise and reputation in that niche, they could expand outward.
Oh, I see.
And then challenge the bigger players.
Okay, so we've talked about the foundation of positioning.
Yes.
We've talked about how not to get lost in the shadows of larger companies.
Right.
But how does positioning change when you're targeting businesses versus individual consumers like you and me?
Well, in B2B, you have higher stakes and a whole different set of anxieties.
Yeah.
These decision makers are often worried about making the wrong choice.
Right.
Potentially damaging their reputation.
Yeah.
Or even getting fired.
And this can lead to no decision becoming the biggest competitor?
Yes, exactly.
Because they're so afraid of making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
They just avoid making any choice at all.
That's right.
And this is where the incumbents often have an advantage, right? Because they're seen as the safe choice.
Safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're going to stick with a restaurant that you know.
Yeah.
Instead of trying something new.
Right.
Because there's less risk involved.
Less risk involved.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot more pressure in B2B?
Definitely.
So there's a lot more pressure in B2B, but what about B2C?
Yeah.
How does positioning work when you're trying to connect with individual consumers like me?
Well, in B2C, you have a lot more room to play with emotions and aspirations. Think about luxury brands.
Okay.
They're not just selling a product.
Right.
They're selling a feeling and identity.
It's like that feeling of exclusivity when you're carrying a designer handbag.
Yeah.
Or wearing a certain brand of sneakers.
Exactly.
They tap into those desires and aspirations that go beyond just the functionality of the product.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have these two different worlds,
right?
B2B and B2C.
Mm.
But how can any company stand out in this sea of marketing messages that we're all bombarded with every day?
Well, that's why having a crystal clear, concise positioning is more crucial than ever.
Right.
You need to be able to instantly communicate your value proposition.
Got it.
In a way that resonates with your specific audience.
Okay.
Whether it's a business buyer concerned about risk, or a consumer seeking a certain emotional connection.
It's like that elevator pitch concept, where you only have a limited amount of time to really get your point across.
Grab their attention.
But how do you know if your positioning is actually working?
He emphasizes observing customer reactions.
Okay.
He said he used to listen in on sales calls.
Got it.
And he noticed 3 telltale signs that a company's positioning was off.
I'm all ears.
First, confusion.
Okay.
If the customer is struggling to understand what your product is or why it matters, your positioning needs work.
Okay, so that's number 1, confusion.
Yeah, number 2 is incorrect comparisons.
Okay.
If they keep comparing you to companies that aren't really your competitors, it means you haven't clearly differentiated yourself.
So they're putting you in the wrong category altogether.
Exactly. And number 3, lack of perceived value.
Okay.
They might understand what you do, but they don't see why it's worth the investment.
So all that effort and the customer just doesn't get it.
It suggests that your positioning isn't effectively communicating the benefits that you bring to the table.
Okay, so positioning is clearly important, but it's not something the marketing team can just figure out on their own right.
Absolutely not. It's team sport.
Okay.
And it requires alignment across multiple departments. Product development, marketing, sales, even customer success.
Okay.
Everyone needs to be on the same page.
Got it.
Telling the same story.
It makes sense if sales is pitching one thing and then the product doesn't deliver. That's a huge disconnect.
Huge disconnect.
That undermines the whole effort.
Yeah, everyone needs to be singing from the same hymn sheet.
Right.
To ensure a consistent and compelling message is reaching the customer.
Speaking of messaging, let's talk about storytelling. It's a term we hear a lot in marketing. But it sometimes feels a bit hollow. Especially in B2B.
He says the key is to understand that effective B2B storytelling isn't about crafting some, tear-jerking narrative.
Right.
It's about providing context. And clarity.
Right.
It's about painting a picture of the market landscape.
Got it.
Highlighting the challenges customers face. And demonstrating why your solution is the best path forward compared to the alternatives.
So it's not just about listing features and benefits.
No.
It's about giving them a map of the terrain.
Exactly.
Showing them why your path is the best one.
And he gives a great example of Postman.
Okay.
This company created a graphic novel.
A graphic novel?
Called The API First World.
Hold on, a graphic novel for B2B?
And it worked brilliantly.
That's bold.
It was a way to educate their audience.
Okay.
Which consists largely of developers.
Got it.
And help them understand this bigger picture.
I see.
They positioned Postman as the essential tool for navigating this new world.
It's almost like they coined a new term. A new category.
And sometimes that's exactly what's needed.
Right.
If you're truly innovating, creating a new category, you need to provide the language for people to understand it.
So you're not just selling a product, you're shaping the entire conversation.
Exactly. You become the thought leader. You're framing the discussion.
You're setting the terms of the debate. Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces are fitting together. Now let's shift gears a bit. And talk about something the expert called the jolt effect. Sounds a bit ominous.
It was a research study that analyzed millions of sales calls.
Wow.
And they found that 40 to 60% of B2B purchases end in no decision.
So they're not choosing a competitor, they're just not choosing anything at all.
That's right.
Wow.
It highlights how pervasive indecision is in the B2B world.
It's like having too many choices on a menu.
You
just end up paralyzed.
You can't order anything.
Can't make a decision.
Exactly.
So the takeaway here is that companies need to address this fear of making the wrong decision. Right?
Absolutely.
Your positioning, your sales approach, your entire go-to-market strategy needs to be designed to instill confidence and make the decision feel as risk-free as possible.
That's right.
So it's not just about presenting the best solution. It's about easing the customer's anxiety and making them feel secure in their choice.
Because ultimately, B2B decisions are often driven as much by risk mitigation as they are by the desire to achieve specific outcomes.
What I'm taking away from all of this is that understanding how customers make decisions is just as important as having a great product.
Totally.
It's about psychology and emotions and perceptions as much as it is about features and benefits.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes companies make is assuming that customers are these perfectly rational beings that make decisions based solely on logic and data.
Yeah, we like to think we're rational.
We do.
But we're not.
No, we're emotional creatures.
We make gut decisions.
We do.
We go with our emotions.
And companies that recognize this and factor it into their positioning are the ones that really connect with their customers.
So it's about understanding their needs, fears, and aspirations on a deeper level.
Yeah, deeper level.
But how do you know if your positioning is actually resonating?
Yeah.
How do you evaluate its effectiveness?
Well, while the grandmother test might work for consumer products. He says in B2B, it's all about observing customer reactions.
Got it.
Are they confused? Are they making inaccurate comparisons? Are they questioning the value proposition?
So it's about listening closely to what they're saying and what they're not saying.
That's right. You have to be able to step outside your own perspective and see your product through their eyes. Pay attention to their language, their questions, their hesitations.
You're almost like a detective.
You're
searching for clues. And if you notice this pattern of confusion or objections that seem to be related to your positioning, that's a signal that something needs to change.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to challenge your assumptions, gather feedback, and make adjustments.
It makes sense. The market's always evolving.
It is.
And your positioning needs to evolve along with it.
Absolutely.
But what happens when things aren't going well? How do you know if it's a positioning problem or something else entirely?
It's a great question. Business success or lack thereof is a complex equation. And positioning is just one variable.
Yeah, it could be a sales execution issue.
It could.
Or product market fit, or maybe just bad timing. How do you isolate the positioning factor?
Well, he says customer feedback is a key indicator. Do you have happy, loyal customers that rave about your product? Then your positioning is likely at least partially on the right track. But if you're consistently encountering confusion or pushback early in the sales process, positioning might be a major contributing factor.
It's like that saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. If you're seeing that pattern of customer reactions that are pointing to positioning, you need to take a serious look at it.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to question your assumptions, solicit feedback, and iterate.
The most successful companies are the ones who are constantly listening, learning, and evolving.
That's right.
I'm noticing a theme here.
What's that?
Be adaptable. Be customer-centric.
And
don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions.
You got it.
This is all super insightful for companies. But what about for us? The consumers? How can understanding positioning help us navigate the marketing noise?
It's like having X-ray vision into the marketing matrix.
Oh.
You can start to see through the hype. And understand the tactics companies are using to influence our perceptions and our choices.
So we become more savvy consumers. Less susceptible to manipulation.
Absolutely. You start asking those critical questions. What category are they trying to place themselves in? Who are their real competitors? What unique value are they offering?
This brings to mind something we discussed earlier, B2B versus B2C. We talked about how companies position themselves.
Right.
But what about us as individuals? Don't we all have a personal brand that we're projecting out into the world?
That's a great point. We absolutely do, whether we're aware of it or not.
Right.
And the way we position ourselves, our skills, our experience, our values can have a huge impact on our careers, our relationships, our overall success.
It's about crafting a narrative, a story that we want people to see and believe about us.
Exactly. And just like with product positioning, it requires clarity, differentiation, and consistency.
So we need to define our unique strengths. The value that we bring to the table, what makes us stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. And then we need to communicate that consistently across all of our platforms.
Across our resumes, our online profiles, our in-person interactions.
That's right.
It's about being intentional and strategic in how we present ourselves to the world.
And just like companies need to adapt their positioning to stay relevant, we need to constantly evolve our personal brand as we gain new skills and experiences.
So whether you're a CEO or a recent grad, understanding positioning can be a game changer.
It can.
It's about taking control of your narrative, presenting yourself in a way that aligns with your goals. Okay, so we've covered positioning for companies. We've even touched on personal branding. But there was one final insight from this expert that really struck me as incredibly relevant to all of us.
You're probably thinking about the jolt effect.
That's it.
Yeah.
And how a surprising number of B2B purposes result in no decision at all. And as we were discussing it, I realized how much that indecision phenomenon plays out in our everyday lives as consumers.
You know, think about how many times you've browsed online. Added items to your cart and then just abandoned it.
All the time.
Without making the purchase.
Oh, yeah. I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah.
Analysis paralysis gets me every time.
You're not alone.
Right.
We're bombarded with so many choices these days.
Yeah.
It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Totally. Or those subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you signed up for and forgot about. And then you see that recurring charge on your credit card statement.
Been there.
So how do we combat this indecision?
Well, I think the first step is awareness.
Okay.
Recognize your own biases and tendencies.
Okay.
Do you tend to overthink? Are you easily swayed by flashy marketing?
Yeah.
Once you understand your own patterns, you can start to develop strategies to overcome them.
It's about being more mindful
and
intentional in our decision-making.
And don't be afraid to seek out information and support.
Okay.
You know, if you're struggling to choose between two products, reach out to friends, family, or online communities for recommendations.
It's like crowdsourcing your decision-making.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And finally, don't let the fear of making the wrong choice paralyze you.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Sometimes the best approach is to just make a decision.
Okay.
And move forward.
Even if it's not the perfect choice, it's better than being stuck in that indecision loop.
Exactly. Every decision is an opportunity to learn.
I like that.
And if it turns out to be the wrong choice, you can always adjust and make a different one next time.
Right. So the key takeaway here is to be aware of our own biases. Seek out information and support when we need it. And don't let fear prevent us from making a choice.
Absolutely. And as you become more confident and deliberate in your decision-making, you'll not only make better choices, but also feel more in control of your life.
That's a great point. It's not just about buying the right product. It's about empowering ourselves to make choices that align with our values and our goals.
And that's the real power of understanding positioning. It gives you the tools to navigate this complex world of marketing. And make decisions that serve you, not the other way around.
Wow. We've really gone deep into positioning today. We've seen how it works for companies. And we've even touched on how these principles apply to our own personal brands.
It is fascinating.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your take on the biggest takeaways for our listeners.
Sure.
What should they be thinking about as they go about their day, encountering all those marketing messages and making those everyday choices?
Well, I think if you're a business owner or involved in marketing at all, this deep dive should serve as a reminder that positioning is an ongoing process.
You can't just set it and forget it.
Exactly. The market is always shifting. Your competitors are innovating. Customer needs are evolving. So your positioning has to be agile enough to keep up.
You need to constantly be evaluating and refining it.
And it's important to remember that positioning isn't just a marketing department responsibility. It needs buy-in and collaboration from the entire organization.
Everyone from product development to sales to customer support needs to be on board.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be living and breathing that positioning.
But even if you're not in the business world, understanding these principles can be incredibly valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
For just navigating life as a consumer.
It gives you a framework for analyzing those marketing messages. Evaluating products and services. And making more informed choices.
It's like having that superpower to decode those messages and see through the smoke and mirrors.
You can start asking the right questions. You can compare products effectively and decide whether Something truly aligns with your needs.
So whether you're leading a company or just navigating your daily life as a consumer, positioning is a force to be reckoned with.
It is. It's about perception.
Yeah.
Crafting narratives and communicating value in a way that truly connects.
And as we've seen, those principles apply whether you're positioning a product, a service, or even yourself.
Or even yourself, your personal brand.
That's right.
And remember, the power of choice is ultimately in your hands.
Yeah.
By understanding positioning, you can become a more conscious, more confident, and more empowered decision maker.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of positioning.
It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep making those smart choices.
See you next time.